So F150 08 here with a 4.6. I guess it's one of the last years that have 4.6 in it. And the same process on 540, exact same sizes of engine mounts and everything. Here's just a quick tip on what to look for if you're pulling the engine. I figured I'd make a quick video, just an insight of what you're running into if you're doing this kind of job, just to be aware of the time and the tools that you're gonna need. First of all, if you have a bad engine, you're gonna pull it back out or work on it or swap it or whatever, you are not gonna be able to take the radiator support off. The fact that it is actually riveted to the rest of the body, and then you can see if you have a lift, you can lift the whole body up and be a lot easier for you to work on the motor, engine and everything. So, and second, this is the only amount of room you have, which is plenty to pull the engine out. It will not be enough room to pull the engine along with the transmission. The part that you can actually save time in it is this is actually, it looks old, but this is the motor, the engine that already been back in, it's used. I've been told it's running. I actually don't support the idea of putting a used motor. I would rather go and get a reman. The fact that a reman is like close to $7,000 in 2023, it is still cheaper than rebuilding it yourself. The fact that you put your time in, even if you don't count your time, the parts and the machine shop themselves, and all of that. So this is the engine that I took out of it, and it have a cracked head. So anyway, what you can do is you can actually save everything with the air condition. You don't have to recover any of that. You don't have to disconnect it of it. Just be careful when you pull it out. And also the radiator hose, actually that one here stayed right where it was the whole time. The other one, it broke. The plastic fitting on it broke because I'm in a rush now. I have to go replace it. But anyway, I would recommend taking these off. The EGR tube, sometimes if you're keeping the manifold or transferring them to the other engine, you can actually leave it just the way it is, like this. If you can actually flex it back and forth, and you'll be all good. As well as the air conditioned compressor, and you got the power steering pump and the power steering reservoir, fluid reservoir, all of them, they can actually be removed and set aside. We go, one more tip is, before you put the power steering pump in place, make sure that the radiator hose is secured. You can actually put it before installing it, put it in the truck, put the whole engine in the truck. There is plenty of room. Once you have the power steering pump out of the way, there's plenty of room to put both of them, and this one here. And if you're not sure, make sure, if you're not sure how it's turning orientation wise, make sure it's just secured, so because you may have to go back and loosen it to twist it. Same with the radiator. I'm gonna eyeball it. It goes here. Hopefully that's the one, because usually there are some marks, and the mark disappear, of course. And if this slid out of the way, put it back around the manifold. There was a mount here. Let me show you. Which is right here. It's on the driver's side. When I pulled this engine out, I actually didn't remove it. I was able to push it a little bit to the side to take the intake, and that's something else. The intake has to come off. I'll come to that in a minute. You have two bolts here. I believe they are 18 millimeter. They're the same size bolt but to hold the dipstick housing on the transmission. The dipstick housing on the transmission have to be removed as well. So the reason why we need to remove the intake is because you need to access the 2 bolts right there. They're all 13mm for the top transmission. The rest of them bolts are easy to get to. So that actually I used a regular box end 13mm, and it did the job. And if it's too far and you just put a bench and jump in here, and you can actually stand on the top of the block and stand also at the front cross member here, and that way you can actually reach it comfortably. You may use like a 4-foot step ladder or a bench. Also, you may want to put the truck on the ramp, and when you pull the engine, when you disconnect everything in the bottom, you have the engine suspending in the air with the hoist. You can actually drop it down, take them off. And I had to take off the bumper, so because my hoist was regular. So this is the kind of hoist I have. It says a regular Harbor Freight 1 ton, and it's not the best, honestly. Of course, you got to take the hood off as well. So the cross member there have 2 nuts that come off just to be able to lift the transmission up and down, because once it gets all disconnected and the engine gets disconnected, you are gonna end up jacking up the transmission all the way up. So for the engine mounts, you have only 1 bolt on this side, driver's side. Both of them gonna go get them off from the inside. See the bolt sticking out? It actually goes in through from the back, and I believe it's a 15/16 size. That's a big bolt. And on the other side, you won't be able to see it from the top, but I'm gonna go underneath and show you. As you can see, I'm working right against a booby trap. You drop your phone, drop your bolts, 10mm are gone. Oops, I didn't want to get dirty today, but anyway, for the sake of showing you guys. So them 2 bolts, the 2 nuts, they need to come off. That's on this side, that's all. If you can take these 2 off, and you go take the bolt, 1 second. Oh shit, my light bulb broke off. Anyway, the other bolt is right there. You got the front drive shafts can get in the way, so 12mm 22-point socket, and take them off, hit it with the impact, it'll come right off. And that there, take your time. Also, I forget to mention, you got to take off the drive shaft too, because the transmission is going to have to slide back and disconnect from the engine. And also, these are the 2 nuts that holds the transmission down, so once you take them off, you can actually jack it up. You put a piece of wood and a jack and jack them up. So this is pretty much also remember, you have to, it's a must, you have to take the radiator off. That is a must, you have to, because you're gonna damage it. Anyway, there's no enough room. You can remove the pieces of trim here to give you a little bit more room. This piece here on top, that's a must. It's gotta have to come off when you do the job. And once you take the top ones doesn't have bolts. You gotta take windshield wiper arms, both of them, and then you take these cover louvers, and then you got like 4 bolts. I'm just putting this back on, but I'm just showing you 4 bolts in the bottom. They are like 7mm, and 1 on this side, 1 on the other side. So hopefully this will help you give an idea how to make it quick, and definitely don't think too much. It's gotta have to come off. there's no room at all. These have just regular plastic pins in there, and all of them are like locked in here with these pieces. And you can disconnect this. This is actually the hose for the windshield wiper fluid. It connects back to here. Of course, the hood is gonna have to come off. I'm really happy that I took them off, because I did hit this couple times. So that's to look for. So one more thing to look for is the wiring harness. You can actually leave it as it is and pull the motor engine back and up and leave them to the sides and make sure everything disconnected. The other thing is to look for, when you put the engine back in, you got this, you got the wiring harness that goes to the transmission. You gotta watch that, because that actually can get pinched between the transmission and the engine. And remember, when you pull the engine out, when you have your hoist hooked in, just jerk the transmission all the way up and make sure it's all the way to the back and disconnected. And also the torque converter bolts, I mean, be careful with them. The other advice also, when you put the engine back in, lift the transmission all the way up again and make sure that the wiring harness is jammed on top of it, and just be careful, don't crush it, but that way you're sure you're not gonna get it back in between the engine and the transmission. Also, before sliding the engine back in, push on the torque converter and turn it and push and turn it and push, just to make sure it didn't move. Usually if we didn't mess with it, should be in its place, so it's good to go. There's something else you need to look for. Once you take the dipstick, transmission dipstick tube, is going to leak a lot of transmission fluid, so put that, remember that. And also the rear drive shaft, when you take that off, is going to leak too. Yes, that's pretty much it. Hit the like button and let me know what I missed in here. I figured I'd make a quick video, just an insight of what you're running into if you're doing this kind of job, just to be aware of the time and the tools that you're gonna need.